Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Let me see if I can check on the group and see if there's anyone live with me. I am live. Just seeing if there's anyone. I can there's someone who, and hopefully hear me as well. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Wendy. I can see that you've joined. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me quite loud and clear. I've had to move away from my regular spot so the kids can be occupied. So we've been relegated to this corner of the house. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all intentional parents. Thank you for joining me this evening. I would like to say thank you to Madam Wendy Ologe for the opportunity to share my thoughts with us, especially in this times that we're in. I wouldn't want to take too much of our time. I know it's already getting close to a lot of people's bedtime, and thank you, Madam Wendy. You can see me and you can hear me. So I'm going to start off straight away, and I hope people can join us as we continue, and people can watch the replay once we're done. So I want to first of all just quickly talk about homeschooling versus online school. I know there's a lot going on out there, and everyone seems to think what they're doing is homeschooling, but it's not. We're really not homeschooling. We're just trying to manage the situation as best as we can. That's what we're all trying to do, manage the situation as best as we can. Because what homeschooling is, it's a really holistic way of looking at the education of the child. So homeschooling isn't just about being online or being at home. It's a lot more, because there are features of homeschooling that we're missing in the current state of things. Homeschooling is, very heavy on socialization. It's heavy interacting with the environment, with nature, with the outside world, with other people. Homeschooling is very heavy on nature and hands-on activities related to whatever topics of the syllabus or the curriculum that you're thinking about. So we're not really homeschooling, as it were. We're just trying to manage things, considering that we're almost all in a lockdown. We can't go out. There's a limit to the things that we can do. Having said that, the second stage of that is not all schools have gone online. Not all schools have the platform. Not all schools have the resources. Not all schools have the manpower or what it takes to offer their clients or offer the children and the parents in their schools online platform for learning. So we've got to think about how we can ensure that our children are kept busy, not busy for the sake of keeping them busy, but they're actually still learning even though they're not in school. Again, especially for those children whose parents and schools do not have access to everything they need to give them accessibility to online school or online learning. So the first thing you need to think about is, can children learn new concepts online? Is it possible for children to learn new concepts online? There's not a yes or no answer, because this is, it depends on a lot of factors. What's the age of the child? What's the concept being taught? What's the topic? What's the learning style of the child? What is the teaching style of the person doing the teaching online? Are there activities or workshops or things that the child needs to do from home? Can the child access whatever is being taught by themselves with minimal adult supervision? So there's a lot to consider when you think about online schooling, and if every child will be able to learn concepts online. So for this reason, what I'm doing with my children is I'm a qualified teacher, but I'm not teaching my children any new concepts. So all I'm doing with my kids is reinforcing and, all those things they've learned from school towards mastery of them. Reinforcing all those things they've learned so far, because the truth is they probably haven't gotten it all. If you look at the curriculum, topics like time, children will come across time in reception class. They will come across time in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. That's saying something to us. There's something about repetition that children need. So I see the lockdown as an opportunity to just consolidate, previous concepts that my children have learned, consolidate and move them closer to mastery of those concepts. So one thing that I think parents should do at this time, one thing that I would advocate is to use this period to find out or to understand how your child best learns. So every child has a way or two that they engage with learning the most. So some will engage if they're in a group. So there's group work. They feed off group learning. Those kind of children don't like doing things all by themselves. Sit at your table and do your own thing. They need 1, 2, 3 extra people to bounce ideas off, to do a bit of brainstorming, to share ideas, to do the pros and cons. Some children like a learning situation where they can actually with things. Some children like the kind of learning where they will sit down and listen to all you have to say to them, and they absorb it. They're fine with that because that's how they learn. Some children need it to be linked. There's so many ways that children learn. There's so many approaches. There's so many ways, but children have a dominant way that they learn, and they also have a less dominant one. So what I would say to parents at this time is, don't run with the crowd just yet and sign up for this and sign up for that and sign up for this. Why don't you try and find out how your child best learns? Because then that will help you with whatever class, skill, online school you want to register them with. So we have different types of intelligences and learning style. We have kinesthetic, children like to move about, touch things, jump, run. We have the verbal, linguistic. We have the naturalistic, who like to interact with nature. We have visual or spatial learners, interpersonal, who work well in groups and with other people. We have logical, mathematical. There must be if and when, if, so, devise. They're intrapersonal, where the child kind of understands their own system and way of thinking. Now we have the musical. Beyond that, they're just different ways that children learn. So I think it's best if you use this time to find out how best your child learns, because then it will help you to tailor whatever it is that you want, whatever activity, even chores. You can tailor it, instructions, behavior management. You can tailor it to your child's best or preferred learning style. The second thing is to try and examine your own unique family situation. There are some people, from the beginning of the lockdown till the end, they will still be at work. They will still be working. They will still be gainfully employed. And there will be some people who will lose their jobs, or who will, it's just the stark reality of life. So don't try to get overwhelmed by what's happening online, or so-and-so's school, they're doing this, or so-and-so's mom and dad are doing that. Take a breather, take a step back and examine your own unique family situation, and then try to then determine what will work best for you. I'm a teacher and I'm still working, though my school does I work 1 week and then I'm off the other week. In that case, and my husband works, he's in the health sector, he works mostly nights. So when he comes back during the day, he wants to sleep. He's not going to teach any child maths or English. He wants to sleep. So that means the week that I'm working and their dad is coming back at night in the morning, there isn't much that's going to happen in terms of book learning for my children. In that situation, does it mean that my children have lost out? No, because I would have set some things in place that they can do, minimal things that don't require supervision, things that I know they can work at their level, and then the rest of the day they're playing, because again and again and again, play is as essential to learning for children as actually sitting down to do maths and English and science. So examine your unique family situation. Do you need to work from home, in the sense that are you still gainfully employed and you need to be, giving report to your boss, or do you need to work from home? Or because you're a business owner and your type of business is the one that still thrives even in this lockdown, then you need to think about how you can, time things, or work with your spouse, or work with your children to develop something that works for you as a family. Can you be flexible with your working hours? So can you do it in the morning, early morning, before the children wake up, maybe say 4 to 7? Or can you afford to do it late in the evening when they've gone to bed, say 9 to 12? Because then that means the rest of the day you're able to work with your children. The rest of the day you're able to focus on them and focus on their learning, especially for those children who do need that adult supervision when they're learning. Or are there routines in your family that you can rejig? Are there routines that you can, we do this in the afternoon, maybe we'll do this in the morning instead? You really have to think about, again, what works for you. Think about the age of the children that are involved. Are your children at that age where they can independently go ahead with their learning? Or can they self-study? Or do they require lots of support or adult supervision? You cannot compare a 5-year-old child to a 10-year-old. You cannot compare a 10-year-old to a 16-year-old. So all of these ages have their own abilities, and you can't just chuck them online and think, okay, your school is online, all right, go, and then I'll see you later. So you've got to think about the age of the children. And then you've got to think again, like I said at the beginning, your child's school. Is the child's school offering you online schooling or not? If they are, and they're making it look like the traditional like the traditional school, so they're doing it in the way that it looks like we're still in school, it's 9 to 3, then that's going to be very difficult. If you've got 2-3 children, they can't all be online at the same time. You can't monitor all of them at the same time. So you have got to do what is best for your family. You've got to think about your sanity, your children's sanity. If you've got a job, you've got to think of what to do to continue to secure your job, and think about your children's mental health as well. Because as much as we're all rushing to online schools and online this, we've got to think that even though these children are young, they are aware of the death toll. They're aware of the death count. They're aware of what's happening. And some children are proper scared. They're proper nervous. They're proper anxious. So don't think just chucking them makes things okay. So be aware of all of these things. The next thing that I'd like us to think about is for us to change the way we view learning or education. Let me use the word. Since we cannot be in school, we cannot be within the four walls of the classroom, and most parents are not qualified to teach their children, in the sense that they probably don't know how to. They're just not skilled. I am not skilled at I can cook, but I would never be a world-class chef. Thinking of anything else. I know how to work my way around ICT and the internet, but I won't call myself an ICT guru. We all have our strengths, the things that we're really good at. And you will find out that a lot of parents have not a clue how to present learning to their children. So you want to then think about what you can do beyond the typical view of learning, which is maths and English, 99 over 100 or 90 over 100. Take yourself away from that and think of learning as something that happens every day. Whether we think about it or not, whether we're intentional about it or not, whether it's written in paper or it's not written in paper, we're learning every day. which means our children will also have that opportunity for everyday learning. So what we want to do is to think beyond the textbooks, think beyond worksheets, think beyond the teacher-student scenario, and look to your immediate environment. How can you milk learning, age-appropriate learning from your immediate environment? So a lot of people will still want to think about maths and English and maths and English. Okay, maths, English, science, biology, history, geography. How can you bring those things out? How can you draw out those things from the things that happen every day? How can you link maths to the things that you're doing age appropriately? How can you link literacy or science to the things that happen within the four walls of your house every day? How can you link this to acquiring and developing life skills? How can you link it to vocational skills? So maybe your child is interested in sewing and you have a sewing machine. I don't know if a lot of people know. I know tailoring and all of that used to be the reserve of people who drop out from school. But there's actually a lot of maths in tailoring. I've got 2 sewing machines, a manual one and a computerized one. And when I'm doing pattern drafting, they're saying divide by 4 and add 0.1 centimeter and then take it, and there's the flare. It's not a reserve for people who can't think as well. It's a creative sector, and for creativity to happen, there's higher order thinking happening. They're not boxed up. They're thinking outside the box. So even in the vocational skills that your children would like to learn, cooking, tailoring, carpentry, ICT, animation, graphics design, that may look like they have nothing to do with school, you can link it to maths and English and science and history and geography. You've just got to think about how you can do that. And because, there will be such a number of answers to that question, I can't say to you, this is how you will link it for your child, or this is how you will link it for your son. But you've got to kind of think about and think on the spot. It behoves on us as parents to also start to put on our thinking caps and how can I link these things to what the children are doing. Yeah, yes, Madam Wendy, there's so much maths in tailoring. And in fact, they have books. I have books in my box, proper tailoring books that if you don't know how to read and understand, you won't understand what's the instructions that are going there. So again, maths and English is not just about my child finished with 99 over 100. They're functional skills. Maths and English, functional skills. Science, biology, ICT. That children need in everyday life. So now that we're no longer in school, why don't we change the way we view things and think, how can we look at those things in our immediate environment? Books. I am an advocate of reading to children, raising readers. Children can learn so much from books. And when I say books, I don't mean textbooks or their notebooks from school. No. From non-fiction books. It might be a non-fiction book about space, a non-fiction book about cooking. It might be a non-fiction book about inventors. It might be a non-fiction book about God knows what. There's so much of them out there. But if your child is able to read, then they can learn from those things. They can learn. Documentaries. I love watching animal life documentaries with my children. And it might look silly to you, but they're learning a lot. They're learning a lot about where animals live where, or the difference between a predator and a prey, or what animals eat, or how a snake sheds its skin and when it does. There's so much that you can get from a documentary with good content, not all the I'm looking for a husband kind of documentary. No, proper stimulating documentary for children. There's so much that can be learned from that. Online, I love online, what do they call them? Online shows like The Chaser, Pointless, Catchphrase. Now, these are fun things that you can sit down as a family. If you look at all those programs that I've talked about, Pointless, The Chaser, I've forgotten the name just now, but my children sit down with me and watch it, and even the 3-year-old sometimes can answer. It might not answer it correctly, but from what is happening, they say, "Oh, this is what that picture is talking about." They're thinking that you can use all these things as learning tools. Now, the point I was just trying to make from that is, because we're not in school, because we're not in the traditional four walls of the classroom, and because some schools do not yet have the resources or platform or manpower to offer us online school, that means some children are just at home with not a lot to do. But there is a lot to do. There is a lot that they can do. There is a lot that they can gain. Again, from documentaries, from books, from vocational skills, from everyday experiences, you can link learning to those things. You can link language skills, literacy skills, and math skills to those things. Then I'd like to move on to the next one, which is there a way that you can use this? Because I don't know we will ever get something like this again. I don't know, maybe, but we not. I don't pray, and I know nobody prays that we experience this. Nobody wants to experience this again in their lifetime. That's just our thought. We don't want it again. But this is the time that we have. So even if your child is not able to do maths or geography, can you just connect with your children in the here and now? Can you find ways to initiate new family routines or traditions that can help you with building connection, and at the same time they can still foster learning for your children? Can you find a reading time? So a drop all and read time. I used to do it with my children a while ago before I started work, and it would be at 6 o'clock every evening, and we would read from 6 to 6:15. And at that point, even though not all of them could read, even though there was only one person who could read out of my 3 children, I just said to the rest of them, just grab a book and flick through the pictures, flick through whatever. But this 15 minutes, we're just reading. You are the one looking through your book and just look at the pictures. I don't know what you're going to do, but just pick a book. And we started from like 10 minutes, then 15 minutes max. And, it's very hard for a 3-year-old to sit down for 15 minutes. So I just overlooked. But we did that a few days a week. Can you look for games, online and offline games that you can play maybe 3 times a week, 2 times a week with your children? Just because there are a lot of games, again, that can foster learning. Snake and ladder. My 3-year-old plays snakes and ladders. He's not great at it, but what I've realized is when he rolls the dice, you can see 2 dots and 3 dots. So I say, count all the dots, and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, that's your player. Can you move your player 5 steps? And it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whether he lands on whether he goes this way or goes that way, the point is he's doing addition for a 3-year-old, which is, I'm just saying, count the dots, and he's moving dots in a number of, he's moving in a sequence. And it's the same thing for the 5-year-old and the same thing for the 7-year-old. If you take the game of Ludo is a very strategic game. Should I come out? Should I go after you? Should I wait for you to come out so I can peck you? These are things that they're not going to do in school. But it takes calculation. It takes strategizing. Let's stay here. Let's stay there. It takes some level of thinking to play a Ludo game. Scrabble is they've not given you all the letters in a way that they can form words. You've got to find out the words that you can make from those letters that fate has dealt you. So these are games that your children can play and still incorporate their maths, incorporate their English, incorporate whatever it is you want to incorporate into the learning. If you've got the space, I know not all of us will have a house with a garden or a house with the space to run around, but if you do have it, can you do some kind of games outside, football, basketball, if you can find a hoop, and just get on with life? Can you incorporate, find a routine that kind of works? So for my children, on the weeks that I'm home and I don't go to work, we don't wake up early. We wake up like 9:30, 10, because this is one life that we have. I know some people wake up at 8 o'clock and be ready to go, but I'm lazy like that. We wake up at 9:30, and then we have breakfast. After breakfast, they rest, and then we do PE. Because there's a lot of videos online tailored for children, 5 minutes PE, 10, And I don't force my children. They're actually interested in doing it. My 7-year-old will tell you after breakfast, she wants to listen to News Round, because that News Round is a BBC program tailored to children to tell them the news about what's happening around them. So we watch News Round. It's just 5 minutes. We watch News Round, we do PE, and then we go and read. Everybody pick a book and read for like 5-10 minutes. Just pick a book and read. Let's float. After that, they go and play. Then we come back again, and then we do their maths work, and then they go and play again. And then they come back again, and we do the English work, and then they go and play. And then the rest of the day is learning from everything that's happening around us and linking. So as much as, I know that, you have to learn, I'm also not very rigid about it. Again, think about the mental health of your children. Think about the fact that they're cooped up in the house morning to night, Monday to Sunday. They're missing their friends. They're missing their friends. They're missing school. My children, I don't know about people's children, but my children miss school. They miss their friends. They miss the activities that they can do. So we want to take it really, really easy and not be too hard with the learning thing. We want them to remember things. We don't want them to go into a slide, but we want to take it easy with children. So think about how you can, incorporate the learning in such a way that it's not so, it's not a typical Nigerian, you have to do 50 questions now or never. No, take it easy. Take it easy. Take a step back and just relax, and just breathe in. So think about how you can set up routines to still help your children learn. Routines will work better. So all of the things I do with my children, depending on the time we wake up in the morning, by 1 o'clock we're done. We're done with anything that's book related. Everything we do after that, we're still learning, but it's pretty much very easy. It might be a program that we're watching on TV, or from a game we're playing, or something we're cooking in the kitchen, or when they're outside looking at flowers and insects. Anything after 1 o'clock is pretty laid back, but they're still learning, and that's the truth. They're still learning. Now, I'm going to quickly take 2 different sets of sort of children, because they need different things. Now, how do you help your toddler? Because I see a lot of online school, and then people are saying they've got online school for 3-year-olds, and I know not everyone will agree with me, and that's the beauty of the world. But my training and my experience, any children from birth to 4, I wouldn't want my child to be online if he's a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. I don't know. So you see, that's a personal subject. It's a subjective topic. I wouldn't want my 2-year-old to be online doing anything. Go and play. In fact, if you can play from morning till night, go. It's fine. So, but that's me, and that's because of my training and my experience. It may not be the same for everyone. So how can you help your toddler? One thing that I'd like us to think about is something called schema. You might need to sort of read up about it a bit more on your own, because we don't have all the time in the world to break it down. But the schema is like a build up of knowledge, a build up of learning. People compartmentalize learning, and they build on it. They build on it. So, and it's their way of making sense of things. So children go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schemas. They have a transporting schema where they're moving things from one place to the other. They have a transforming schema. They have a trajectory schema. They have a connection schema, how things link. They have a rotation schema, things that move and things that roll. They have a positioning schema, how things fit into one another, or how things fit, is it at the top or at the bottom. And they have an enclosing schema, so putting things in things and all of that. So all of these 7 schemas, your child will exhibit them, your toddler will exhibit them. It is left for you to observe, and once you notice, again, you can go back to the internet and look for activities that support rotation schema. Yes, Mrs. Oyesoya, yes, toddlers should be exploring the world around them. They don't need to be doing all this sitting down, reading, writing. There will be children who are very, very able. There'll be children who are probably working on genius level. But let's be honest, that is not 1 in 3 children. That's like 1 in 5,000, one in a million. Savants and geniuses are not, they're not a dime a dozen. Yeah, they're not a dime a dozen. They're very rare. So not every 2-year-old will be able to do this. And just because a child can do something doesn't mean we should push a child to do that thing, especially if it is not relevant at that point in their lives. So a 2-year-old who is able to say 1 to 1,000, of what benefit is it? Are you going to give the child 1,000 naira to go and buy buka rice for you and then bring change? No, you're not. Very unlikely that you will give that child and say, oh, collect correct change. Oh, no, you wouldn't do that. It won't be relevant to the child. The child may be able to count, but then if you say the number before 892, will that child be able to tell you? Or if you say to the child, what is the place value of the number 9 in 295? Does the child know? Or if you say to the child, what happens to 295 if I take 10 away from it? Or what's 10 less? So, it's not relevant to them. So the fact that they can do it doesn't mean they need it. So how can you help your toddler? Once again, think about the schemas that I spoke about. So positioning schema, enclosing schema, rotation schema, transforming schema, connection, trajectory, and transportation schema. And your children will of it. Think about if you have an outside space. If you do have the outside space, how you can provide for water play and or sand play for your toddler. Water play is a good way for you to then give him a few spoons and a few cups, sponge and soap. Go and wash. Don't even make it sound like go and wash. Just put it there. You'll be amazed how your toddler will wash up, and then the next day they'll be asking you for plates and spoons to wash. Yeah, that's one chore already sorted in your life. Or give them socks, or even give them their toys. Just put water, put soap. It might not seem like a lot to you, but they're learning. If it's sand, give them sand with water. We all did this when we were young. The sand with a little bit of water was our cake, or it was our eba. And then we had leaves and we had stone, which are the pieces of meat. But we learned to share. We learned to understand how much water we needed to make solid eba, or how much water we wanted in the sand if we wanted it to be gari-like. All of these things might not look like much to you, but for a toddler, it's a lot of learning and problem solving. Think about how you can get your toddler to clothe themselves, feed themselves. Think about potty training in this time. Think about how your toddler can tidy up after themselves in the house. So many ways that you can help your toddler that don't necessarily have to be online. Think about developing your toddler's language skills. You reading aloud to your toddler, and my own personal, that's my own thing. Language skills, reading aloud to your toddler, then developing phonological and phonemic awareness. When we talk about developing phonological and phonemic awareness, it has nothing to do with knowing that symbol says A. No, all you want your child to do is to hear that the words apple, anchor, arrow, and antelope all start with the sound A. That's all there is to it. You want your child to know that the words star, sister, saxophone all start with the sound S. You don't need to show them a letter. You don't need to show them the word. But you want to develop their awareness to the point that when they hear the word mommy, they know that it starts with a sound, even if they don't know what the letter M looks like. Yeah, that's what you want to use this period to do, especially for those who have toddlers who will be starting school. Develop their phonemic and phonological awareness through the books you read and things you do. And you might then think, what of maths? Use their toys. Oh, how many toys are you playing with? I did it with my toddler today. He wanted to wash up spoons and plates because his big sisters were doing it. So I gave him a cup and a few spoons. And when he was done, I was like, ooh, how many spoons did you wash? And we counted 7. And that's that, about that. But that's still maths. And that's still learning in action. Again, it might not seem like a lot to you, but he's 3 years old. What is the rush? He's not going to do anything with it. He has all of his life to learn more about some A plus B equals X to find X. That's that. Now, when you think about the slightly older kids, so say kids from like age 6 above, who are able to, maybe you can leave them to get on with their learning if they have access to online school, or to get on with their learning if they have a textbook or a workbook. What else can you do? Because the honest truth is, and if we want to admit it to ourselves, these children will get bored with the constant listen to something online, do your task. Listen to something online, answering the worksheet. They will get tired of it, especially if it is not aligned to their preferred learning style. They will get, even as adults, we parents, I can tell you, some parents are bored stiff out of their heads. They don't know what to do anymore, because the same routine that we're doing every day now, we don't even know which day is Monday, Tuesday. People are bored. Adults are bored. In the same way, these children will get bored as well. So for your 6-year-old to 10-year-old, apart from all the things mentioned before, find creative ways to incorporate their learning. If you watch a documentary with your child who's able to read and write, why don't you get them to write a report? In that report, it can include drawings or illustrations. If they don't want to do writing because they're bored of writing, why don't you get them to use a mind map to show you what they learned from that documentary? A mind map has minimal words and lots of drawings with colorings. Can they then do a compare and contrast? Or we've watched something about maybe electricity in Australia. Get your child, depending on the age, compare and contrast how we generate electricity in Nigeria. What could we learn from that? Could they make a report to the governor or the president saying to them, these are visible ideas that could help generate electricity? It doesn't all have to be, again, that maths and English 1/1, 2/. No, we can really be flexible. We can use scenario-based questions or problem-based learning questions. I had a year 4 class a few years ago, and I told them to plan a trip on a budget. So plan a trip, research where we're going and why we should go there. So they're going on the internet to research which location should we go. Obviously, we're not going there for real, but they are interested in it. So I didn't say to them, we're going to visit Australia, plan a budget. No, in your groups, choose a place that you'd like us to visit. Why are you telling us to visit that place? How much do we need to go there? For them to know how much we need to go there, they need to know how many of us are going, how much will the flights cost, how much will it cost to book hotels, how much will it cost to pay for the different sites that we want to see. So there's a lot going in there in that simple plan a trip on a budget. And you can do the same with your children. For some ages, you can say, oh, we're going shopping tomorrow. Can you help write a shopping list? That incorporates writing. Can you put the amounts that you think we might spend there? And then when we come back from the shopping, let's estimate where we off or where we, above or whatever. For the older ones, they can create that report about a country. What's the best place you'd like to visit after this lockdown? Can you give us trying to find the word. Can you give us a written report about that place? Why do you like the place? What are the sites? Because you haven't said, go and write a report about Nigeria. The child is like, oh. You say to your child, this lockdown is really getting on everybody's nerves. What's that after this lockdown? And your child goes, would you really like to visit New York? What do you know about New York? Can you find out some few things about New York and come share with us? Would like to know. Who knows, we might be able to save money for you to go there. There's a hook there already, and your child is interested, and they can go on and do that. Or you can get your child to create an audiovisual report of a topic of their choice. Again, it depends on your family tradition. You can involve the children. It shouldn't always be we as the adults saying, this is what we're doing. Sit down together. Okay, where would you all like to go after this lockdown? Say you've got 4 kids and they go, this one wants to go to so and so, that one wants to go to a different place. Okay, everybody go and research and create an audio visual to show us, or PowerPoint presentation to show us this place that you want to travel to. So there's so much that we can do. Cooking, tailoring, like I said, carpentry, all this They might look like, what are they? But a lot of them involve a lot of maths, knowledge of science, knowledge of biology. Somebody who is going to do carpentry, you need to know the type of woods that you're using. You need to know which forest you can get them from. You need to know what temperature they can be kept at. There's a lot going on that isn't necessarily textbook learning, that the children are learning. They're learning. Cooking involves measurements. There's science in cooking. If you leave this too much, will it boil over? Will it curdle? Will it what's happening? So let's just try to think outside the box. I spent 45 minutes, and I'd just like to say, in all that you're doing, I know it's a lot, and some days even I'm tired. I'm like, you know what? I just wish this would end. But it's not over yet. We're still there, so we might as well live our lives in the now. Now, in all that you're thinking, think about, Madam Felicitas, yes, learning via conversation is key. There's something called talk for learning. Even in maths, there's talk for learning. There's a lot of learning that can go on, just by communicating. Look for a sound topic. Again, I think one of the problems we might have as parents is that we're so used to laying down the rules. Okay, today we're going to talk about. But if you come and say, today we're going to talk about this, your children might not be engaged. They might not be interested. But if you told them 2 days ago that on so and so date, what do you guys think? What fun things can we do? I'm thinking we've never baked in this house. Should we bake? Maybe one child will say, no, let's not bake. Let's just cook a different food that we've never cooked. What should we cook if everybody agrees? Okay, let's cook a dikanko. Buzz, how do we cook a dikanko? Should we watch a YouTube video? Can you all take notes as we're watching the YouTube video? What are the ingredients that we need? What is this? What is that? It's just, we've just got to think about how we can find learning in all the things that are happening around us. We've got to think about it. What you then want to think about is, even if you're then doing the typical maths and English, which I do, so like I said, I try to do everything book related, because I don't want my children to forget as well. And if you let them go, they might forget, because they're not using those skills. There's a theory of use and misuse. They're not using those skills or the knowledge, so it might go into the back burner of their mind. But if we activate it every day, it will be at the forefront. But think about how, if you're doing book-based learning as part of your routine, how can you revise previous learning? So consolidate what they learned. So yesterday we learned about this. Let's see if we remember. How can we do this? Why do we do that? Where? And then come to the new learning of the day. Think about repeating concepts. Don't think because you said to your child, we're learning how to tell time. This is how you tell time. The hour hand is on 4. The minute hand is on 3. That's 4:15. The hour hand is on 6. The minute hand is on 3. That's 6:15. Okay, so do these ones on the paper, and the child does it, and you think that's it. No. There's a place of repeating until children get it. Think of how you can feedback or follow up to check on understanding. So even if your children are doing this, if their school is online, think about how you as the parent can check that your child understands. Use questions, higher order questions, not the yes no questions. No, think open-ended questions. Why? How? What could happen if? What would we get if? How could we? What do you think about? What if this and this happens? Think about those kind of questions that don't have yes or no answers. Those kind of questions that will get your child to think. Let's analyze this. Critical analysis of these things, and get your child to work on that. Break down concepts. If you're going to teach time to a 5-year-old, you're not just going to quickly come and say, today we're learning time. When the minute hand is here and the hour hand is here, it's 4 o'clock. When it's there, it's 2 o'clock. No. Make it easy. Start from days of the week, months of the year, and then seasons, and then go to when do we sleep and wake up? How old are you? How old are the people in the house? When is your birthday? Because all those things are concepts of time. When is your birthday? When is daddy's birthday? Oh, when is it for those of us in the abroad? When is it summer? When is it winter? For those in Nigeria, when is Hamatan? that is concept of time. You gradually build on it. When do you go to school? When do we go to bed? Especially if you have a bedtime routine. So the children know it's bedtime, and 7 o'clock is bedtime. So the child already has an idea before you then introduce that new concept. Even the new concept, you can still embed it in books. There are books, I've said it before on my groups, there are books for every topic, story books, picture books for every topic that you want to teach your child. So start off from a story book and then build up gradually. Don't think because you're doing homeschooling, you're going to teach quarter past, quarter to half past all in one day. It's not going to work. Break down the concepts. Finally, think about how you can get your child to reflect on their own learning and how you as the adult can reflect on teaching. So especially if, say, you're a teacher like me and you're home with your children, so you both have to reflect on your teaching approach and their learning style. What did we do well today? What did I do well with my children? What went well? What didn't go well? What will we do differently tomorrow? So that you know how to then switch things over for the next day. So that it's not the same. Why did you, especially with Nigerian, who told you to that 2 times 2 equals 4? Can't you think? No, you've got to calm down. If you did that and the child didn't get it, step back. Think when at night when they've gone to bed, you think, what did I do well? That point where she got it. What were we doing? What did she do? What did I do that made her get it? I will use my 5-year-old as an example before I finish up. So we're reading a specific book that focuses on stage 3 phonic sounds. The E, that says E, and Y that says E. So the book we're using has all those sounds. And I thought if I teach her all 3 sounds in a day, she might be overwhelmed. So day 1, we did E sounds. So in teeth, in sweet, in queen, based on the words in the book. The second day, we did the EA sound in feast, in heap, in meat. The third day, we did the ones with the Y, happy, jelly, Nelly. Now, the first day, I was using the small movable alphabets from Montessori to make the words. So she was just sitting there. She was more like a spectator. I was the one in T-E-E-T-H. Okay, what's this? Teeth. And I realized later, looking back, that she got bored really easy. So the next day, I was like, okay, you listen to the word. The word is teeth. What is the first sound that we need? And she goes, T. I gave her the letters. It was slightly better, but then again, I realized she was itching to do those things herself. So the third day, I left her to do it. She actually said she wants to write. So I gave her a pen and a pencil and a paper, and she wrote the words as I was saying them. So you've got to be able to step back, look at what engaged your child. What did we do well? I think the one we did on Thursday was in the evening, and she didn't like it. She was just, she was yawning. But in the morning after breakfast, she's her energy is high up there and she's engaged. So I know she's that kind of person who does well with the morning time, and then that's it. In the evening, she was like a flower that was like, she was like, oh my gosh. But she didn't have a choice. She went through with it, but I know she didn't enjoy it. So you've got to reflect as the mom or dad, and get your child to also reflect. What did you do well? What did you enjoy? What do you think went well? How did you think you got the answer to that? Why do you think you got the answer to that? Do you think that will apply to every scenario or every question? That is how you help your children learn. And then link knowledge. Knowledge isn't, they're no standstill knowledge, or how do I say it? Knowledge is always linked. Your knowledge of time will help you when you're cooking, because then you can say in 15 minutes time, I need to check the rice I'm boiling. Your knowledge of measurements will help you if you're doing carpentry. I know that 10 centimeters make one, whatever, and then I can. So if the instruction is using millimeters, I can convert it to centimeters because that's the tape measure that I got. You're constantly using. So help your children to link knowledge, to link learning, to link things to one another. Think consistency over intensity. So it's better, and that's why with my routine with my children, we do learning of 10, 15, 20 minutes. We go and play for like 15 minutes. They come back, we do another set of 10, 15, 20 minutes. They go and play for another 20 minutes. You need to think of consistency over sit there for 1 hour and you must get it by force and fire today. No, don't be that kind of parent that needs your child to get it immediately. No, they won't get it immediately. Take it easy. It's better you do, which has always been my approach when I'm doing anything with the children at home, I prefer to do 15 minutes every day, Monday to Friday, than to do 1 hour on Monday with basketballs, slapping, kicking, punching, shouting, and then say we'll see each other next week Monday. So think consistency. Think how you can consistently do those things instead of 1 hour on maths, 1 hour on English, 1 hour on science, no breaking. If you don't finish those 50 questions, you're not going anywhere. No. It's better to answer 5 questions and understand why you got it right or wrong than to do 50 just to please mom or dad. Over intensity. Let's be aware of our state of mind, stress level, and the mental health of our children. Now, it's very difficult to give people do this, do that, because we're all different in our families. We have different family situations. We have different, the children we all have different needs. So what will work for my children will not work for you. I think I have a sis on this table, Madam Ziobi. She's a homeschooling mom, and she says she has one of her sons who will come at 6 o'clock. That's when that's his own learning window. That's when he's ready to learn. He will come at like 6 o'clock. Okay, mommy, can you start reading this book to me? And she's looking at him like, Haba, I want to sleep. So, it may not work for you like that. I won't be able to do anything with any child at 6 because I'm tired at that time. So whatever we all want to do, let's do it in the morning. So think about, again, your unique family situation. Think about how your children learn. Try to think outside the box when it comes to learning and education. Try to see how you can incorporate learning and draw out learning from everything around you. The fact that it's not recorded on paper doesn't mean your child isn't learning. The fact that you have nothing to mark doesn't mean your child isn't learning. The fact that you don't have a book to show doesn't mean your child isn't learning. Yes, let's clear our minds of all those myths. It doesn't have to be written down for learning to have taken place. It doesn't need to for a record. It doesn't need to come from a textbook for knowledge to have taken place. It doesn't need to be hard and raspberries like for learning to have taken place. So think about how you can focus on your children mastering a concept before moving to the next. Mastery before moving to the next. Master a topic. Master it. When you say someone is a master at something, that person has experimented with all scenarios around that topic. They know if you add 1 more, this is it. If you add 10 more, if you take away 2, if you take away 10, mastery before you then move on to the next topic. Link every knowledge. Help your children to reflect on their teaching and learning. Be aware of your state of mind, state of health, and be aware of, thank you, my sister, be aware of the individual style that the learning preference or the learning style of your child. Some children, on the last note, might probably find this lockdown very, very difficult because they're social learners. And that's one thing for toddlers. Thank God I came back to that. That's one thing about toddlers. The learning that toddlers will do is very, very social. Role play. That's what they do with their friends. Learning how to share. Learning how to take turns. Who would they talk to? It's the other children around them. So for toddlers, all that online schooling may not work if you're not doing a Skype conference of a group of toddlers. If it's just that one child on the internet, it might not work. It might not really work for toddlers. So let's be aware of that. Let's put that into consideration. Look for what works for your home. Look for what works for your family. And just as you're praying, I'm praying as well that we get through this safe and sound and healthy. We get through it soon, and we can start to return to a semblance of the remnants of life as we knew it. Thank you to Madam Wendy Ologe for this opportunity. Thank you to everyone who joined. Mrs. Blessing, Mrs. Topstar, Mrs. Felicitas, Mrs. Oyesoya, Mrs. Jane Osioma, Mrs. Tracy Jackson, Mrs. Etima, I see you. Thank you to everyone who's joined and everyone who will watch later. It's been, I value the opportunity. Thank you very much. If you drop questions, I can answer them as and when. But that is it for tonight. I've spent an hour. I think that is long enough. But thank you again. Let's stay safe mentally and physically. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you very much.